We'll be doing the national anthem for India now.
I have great pleasure in inviting our Consul General, Shri Manish Ji, to stage to say a few words and to tell you all about the Constitution Day that we are celebrating today. Let me just take a very brief moment to let you know that Mr. Manish joined us here in Vancouver last year in end of August. He's a career diplomat, and his external travels and assignments have taken him to Moscow, Tashkent, Prague, Colombo, and Jakarta, and now in Vancouver. He has extensive experience in his vast diplomatic career in bilateral, multilateral, commercial, political assignments at headquarters as well. Mr. Manish Ji, may I just invite you for your brief remarks.
Thank you, Manjeet, for that lavish introduction. Distinguished guests, Honorable Minister Bruce Ralston, Honorable Ujjwal Dosanji, former Premier of British Columbia, Mr. Ranga, President of Chetna Association, Mr. Birdi, Secretary of Chetna Association, all the panelists today who are going to speak on various subjects, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure for me to welcome you this evening on a very important day, that is 26th November, when we are celebrating the Constitution Day of India. My best wishes and greetings to each one of you here and those who are watching this event. A very happy Constitution Day. As you all know, 26th November 1949 was the day when the Constituent Assembly of India, under the chairmanship of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, adopted the Indian Constitution. This is also called Samvidhan Divas. Of course, the Constitution of India came into force on 26th January 1950 when India became a republic. This celebration was started in October when Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji was laying the foundation stone of B.R. Ambedkar Statue of Equality Memorial in Mumbai on 11th October 2015. He declared that every year November 26 will be celebrated as Constitution Day. The significance of this was to promote constitutional values among the citizens of India and those who are living abroad. And then the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment notified its decision, and since then 26th November is being celebrated every year as the Constitution Day. Being a student of law, done a law degree from Delhi University, and then writing my civil services exam in a law, I have read Indian Constitution hundreds of times. I have gone through it. It's now a little late in the day, but I used to remember each and every article of the Constitution. So the strongest point of the Indian Constitution is that we are the largest and the biggest constitution in the world. And we have to give credit to our forefathers, the freedom fighters, the constituent assembly members, they deliberated and took important elements and aspects of constitutions of various parts of the world, including that of Canada. From Canadian Constitution, we took the federal system. From the British system, we took some elements from the US, from the Irish, from South Africa, and from the Soviet Union. So we have put together a document which is a living document as the Supreme Court of India has interpreted it. Living document in the sense that it is not rigid, it is flexible. We have to understand the context in which we had formed this constitution in 1946. We were coming out of shadows of colonial rule. There was a particular socio-economic milieu at that time. So our forefathers thought that it cannot be as strict, and so they made provision to make it flexible. To get an insight into this constitution, the best thing is to go through the preamble of the Indian Constitution. The preamble gives you an insight of what this document is all about. I'll take you a moment to read out the preamble of the Constitution, and a copy of the preamble is lying on your table. I'd like to draw your attention to have a look. Each word has its own significance. And I don't know how many of you have deliberated on it, but I would request you to go through the preamble very carefully, because, as I said, each word of it has a significance, and it gives you an insight into the documents which we are going to, what is all about the Indian Constitution. I'll read out: "We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this Constitution." So the Constitution is being given to us by the people of India. We are a republic, we are a sovereign country. That means we are not under any external power. We are secular. That means state has no religion. We are equal. So the Constitution, the country doesn't distinguish between man, woman, or other people. So each religion is equal. So, and the way the Constitution has been laid out, so from the territories to the rights and the duties, then the directive principles, and so it is a beautiful Constitution, and it has survived the test of its time. We having 28 states and 8 union territories, have 1.3 billion people of diverse background, diverse culture, diverse languages. But this is one document which has unified us and put us together. And it is the source for the governance of the current government or past government. It is also a source of strength for us to survive, progress as a nation, and I'm really proud of what this Constitution has given to us in this for our country. And when we are celebrating 75 years of India's independence next year, and I'd like to request each one of our citizens, each of Indo-Canadian citizens, to value the Constitution, its constitutional principles, whether of India or of Canada, and contribute their bit for the progress and prosperity of the nation. I would also take a moment to acknowledge Chetna Association, the office bearers who have always partnered with us in the various ways. We have been partnering and celebrating with them not only the Constitution Day of India, but also we partner with them to celebrate the legacy and the life of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, Baba Saheb Ambedkar every year. And the community members here were present, as well as Honorable Minister Ralston, and his government has always supported the values and the events and the importance of various national days here in British Columbia. We really appreciate your support, Honorable Minister Ralston. And to all the Indo-Canadian community members here, I once again like to thank you for taking time out to join us here. Some of you have already, who have come here, have already risen to various levels in the society here. We have the former Premier here, and today we'll be having Dr. Ravin Thakur from the Thakur Charitable Foundation. He is going to talk about justice, various aspects, equality aspect of the Indian Constitution. We have Professor of Political Science, Dr. Sindhar Purewal. He will talk about Indian Constitution and the birth of new Republic. We have Ms. Bains here who will talk about women and how the Constitution of India supports women in empowerment. We have Advocate Loveleen Gill here, who will be talking about inclusiveness, inclusions, inequality, how the Constitution is tackling inequality in democratically elected societies. And of course, the second part, as Manjeesh has already said, we will be having a special award ceremony to recognize the contribution of some of our people in the Canadian society by giving them Dr. Ambedkar Awards. And I preempt by congratulating them beforehand for receiving those awards. And thank you, Jyotika, for this beautiful rendition of the national anthem of both India and Canada. We also value your contribution in terms of promoting Indian music and culture among the society here. And thanks to all the sponsors who are supporting this event. Without them, I think it won't be possible to do this award ceremony. And thanks to my colleagues here who do all the work and behind the scene and to make the event a success. And I hope that you will gain out of this event and at least get an insight into the making of Indian Constitution and the philosophy behind the constitutional principles and the way we are shaping up in the 21st century. Thank you very much once again, and enjoy the evening.
Thank you very much, sir, for those insights into the Indian Constitution and especially the preamble, which is the foundation of the Constitution. And we've brought along a copy of the Constitution. This book that you see there is actually the Constitution, and we invite you to after the event to just have a look at it and see what it contains. So I think before we move to all the speakers of the keynote speakers of the evening that Consul General mentioned, it always gives me great pleasure to invite our next guest whenever I've had this chance to do that, and to hear his perspective on the relations between India and Canada. Honorable Bruce Ralston, he's the MLA-elect from Surrey Valley and also the Minister of Energy, Mines and Petroleum Resources in the BC government. Sir, may I please request you to say a few words.
Thank you very much. Pleased to be asked to say a few remarks. When I was asked to speak, I wasn't aware that there would be such a distinguished crowd of potential critics here, a former Premier, and in this case, a former Attorney General, a professor of political science, someone who is the Consul General, who has studied and read the Constitution countless times, none of which I could claim, although I have, in preparation for this talk, had a a perusal of the many written documents and the long history and the very distinguished and moving history of the creation of the Indian Constitution. I've been asked to make some comparisons between, in about 5 minutes, which is really a very challenging enterprise, some comparisons between the Indian Constitution and the Canadian Constitution. So I have a couple of comments about that, but let me just say that to begin, I think it's understood that a constitution is the paramount legal document and political document that guides the structures, procedures, powers and duties of government institutions and sets out the fundamental rights and obligations of the citizens of the state. So it is the touchstone and the beginning for any analysis of how government functions in a state. But even the simple, relatively simple preparation for this short talk impressed me with the intellectual range that would be required to draft the Indian Constitution and the incredible intellectual leadership of Dr. Ambedkar. Upon India's independence, the government invited him to serve as the first law minister, and then he was appointed chairman of the Constitutional Drafting Commission appointed by the Assembly. So he brought to that task a prodigious intellect and great political judgment. He had, it was reported, studied the constitutions of 60 countries. I don't think there's many here, even law professors, who could claim that. Although there was, in theory, a drafting committee that he served on, I just want to give you a sense of the burden that he bore, and he bore a disproportionate burden of writing. T. Krishna Makari said, he was a member of the drafting committee. He spoke in the House and he said this: "Mr. President, sir, I am one of those in the House who have listened to Dr. Ambedkar very carefully. I am aware of the amount of work and enthusiasm he has brought to bear in the work of drafting this Constitution. At the same time, I do realize that the amount of attention that was necessary for the purpose of drafting a Constitution, so important to us at this moment, has not been given to it by the drafting committee." That's the committee that Ambedkar was a member of. "The House is perhaps aware that of the 7 members nominated by you, 1 had resigned from the House and was replaced, 1 died and was not replaced, 1 was in America and his place was not filled up, another person was engaged in state affairs, and there was a void to that extent. 1 or 2 people were very far from Delhi, perhaps for reasons of health did not permit them to attend. So it happened that ultimately the burden of drafting this Constitution fell on Dr. Ambedkar. And I have no doubt we are grateful to him for having achieved this task in a manner which is undoubtedly commendable." So while nominally it was a collective process, I think what's being said here is that Dr. Ambedkar almost single-handedly, and I don't think that's really an exaggeration given that this person was also on the committee, was the person who really engaged in the work necessary to draft the Constitution. And it's considered to be, reputed to be, and I would probably defer to the Consul General on this, the longest Constitution in the world. It's a very, very formidable document. Dr. Ambedkar drew from a number of sources. Britain was one of them. Some elements of the British unwritten Constitution, the American Constitution, in particular division of powers. But my text is about the Canadian Constitution, and just for those of you who remember, are old enough to remember the repatriation, so-called, of the Constitution in 1982. What we had as the Constitution was technically the British North America Act, which was legislation passed by the British Parliament to govern the affairs of state of Canada. In 1982, that document formed part of a new Canadian Constitution Act and included the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. So that really is what constitutes the Canadian Constitution. There are other elements, unwritten constitutional conventions and history that forms part of how we govern ourselves here in Canada. But I think the essential, I suppose, element or legal principle that Dr. Ambedkar drew from the Canadian Constitution was to adopt a federal system with a strong central government and a distribution of powers between the provinces and the central government. And sometimes one recognizes the similarities in the interplay between the Indian states and the central government and between provinces such as ours or Alberta or Quebec and the central government of Canada. There is that similarity in the way in which our two states operate. The residual powers, that's what's left after you've divided it up, remain with the federal government in Canada, and Dr. Ambedkar did that there as well. So there are other aspects, the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, to some extent the appointment of lieutenant governors that are also drawn from the Canadian experience. But I think the element that was not present in the Canadian Constitution at the time that the Indian Constitution was promulgated and became the supreme law of India was the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Obviously that came later, but there are some antecedents in the Indian Constitution which offers a strong protection for civil liberties of individual citizens, freedom of religion, and extensive economic and social rights for women. Dr. Ambedkar was very firm in his belief about the equality of the sexes. And then in what we might categorize here in Canada as an affirmative action measure, the reservations of jobs in the public service, schools and colleges for members of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. So we would probably view that through the lens of affirmative action here in Canada. So those, I think, those elements of comparison only emerged later after Canada adopted the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. So there are, they said 5 minutes. I think I'm pretty well out my 5 minutes. So of course one could talk much longer, but I really want to, but I won't. You'll be relieved to hear. But I think really what I want to recognize here is on the Constitution Day, well, it's not the celebration of a single individual. It is truly a national and collective achievement, the creation of a constitution, the historic struggles for freedom and justice that led to the political moment where India created the Constitution as to govern itself after independence. Nonetheless, I keep coming back to the dynamism, the intellectual power, and the political leadership of Dr. Ambedkar, someone who I think has been categorized as the greatest Indian of the 20th century. I think there was an actual public survey at one point in India, a public opinion survey. And so certainly he is held in high esteem in many, many parts of the world as one of the great intellects of the last century. And I think his crowning intellectual achievement is certainly the Constitution of India. So I want to thank the Chetna Society for inviting me. I'm here in my riding, Surrey. This Khanna Hall is a place that I have not been able to come to much lately, like many of us, just because of the pandemic. But it's good to be back here in Surrey, talking about Dr. Ambedkar and being able to discuss that with all of you. So So thank you to the Society. Look forward to and congratulate in advance the award winners who are going to be honored this evening. And it's really a pleasure to welcome all of you here to my riding of Surrey Wally, the pulsing heart of Surrey, the best place in British Columbia. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Minister Ralston, for those remarks. And yes, indeed, I think the credit for spreading the legacy of Dr. Ambedkar and his work, I think, goes to the Chetna Association, and I think they're doing a splendid job of letting people know what his contribution was to not just India but to the society in general. Before we move to our keynote speakers, let me invite two very talented ladies, young ladies. We have Niharika and Sumana Tadka, and they are wonderful dancers, classical, and today they are going to present one of their performances, and I'm sure they're going to enthrall you with their talent. Let me introduce our keynote speaker, Mr. Arvind Thakur. He is a business leader, a consultant, and a philanthropist. He's also a Gandhian. His family has been supporting the education sector through their charitable foundation, the Thakur Charitable Foundation, and they run endowment at SFU, which is also his alma mater. Mr. Thakur, and we are very privileged that he's very, very closely also associated with the Consulate. And today, he's going to be sharing his thoughts on achieving justice, equality, liberty, and fraternity through peace and non-violence as promoted by Mahatma Gandhi and Dr. Ambedkar. Oof. Dr. Thakur, floor is all yours, sir.
Respected Consul General of India, Manishji, members of the Consulate, President Mahendra Ranga of Chetna Association and Sri J. Birdi, Minister Bruce Ralston, former Premier Ujjwal Dosanjh. I guess when I got this topic and I said, what can I say? Because these are two great stalwart people of India. They had visions and how they shaped the constitution, the country, and how the democracy has survived. So let me I went to the library, looked up quickly what I can find, what are the analysis, and what I'm going to say is the two visions and how they worked with each other and how they were also different. If Mahatma Gandhi won India its independence from British colonialism, B.R. Ambedkar gave India a constitution framework that ensured sustenance of the hard-fought freedom. Mahatma Gandhi and Ambedkar complemented each other in many aspects of public and political life and shared many things in common. The scheme in Gandhi was very comprehensive. It never allowed social reform to remain aside of political freedom. Gandhi burning foreign clothes and B.R. Ambedkar burning Manusmriti were no mere acts of sentiments. For both, foreign cloth and Manusmriti had the effect of bondage and slavery for the countrymen. A pinch of salt from God's ocean was a political masterpiece, and a handful of water from the Mahat tank was the proclamation of social philosophy. There were no symbolic gestures. There were the outward manifestation or portents of the new emerging social and political patterns for India in the offing. Gandhi made it clear the cities live upon the villages. India is daily growing poorer. In losing the spinning wheel, we lost our left lung. We are therefore suffering from galloping consumption. It is a sin to be in foreign cloth, and burning foreign cloth, I burn my shame. So Mohandas K. Gandhi, 1869 to 1948, and Bhimji Rao Ambedkar, 1891 to 1956, are among the major makers of modern India. Their public careers began early. Gandhi's in South Africa in mid-1890s, and Ambedkar's in Western India in the early 1920s. They built on the work of 19th century and early 20th century religious and social reformers, such as Ram Mohan Roy, Mahadev Govind Ramde, Swami Vivekanand, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, Swami Dayanand, and Jyotiba Phule. Each fought with rare persistence and exceptional vigor to rid the India of oppression from within and without. Once they entered the public arena, there was no turning back for either of them. They maintained the momentum in the struggle for justice and equality until the very end of their lives. Gandhi and Ambedkar offered specific goals for and pathways to the creation of just social order in India. They differed over objectives as well as the methods for achieving their ends. In their long public careers, both of them addressed a number of crucial social and political issues. One of the issues was how best to remove untouchability over the two fundamental differences these two people had in 1920. Perhaps it was to be expected that their very different backgrounds and commitments took them on different paths in the struggle against the internal and external oppression. Gandhi believed that standing at the heart of the inherited Hindu tradition, including its caste system, it was possible to overcome untouchability. And in his word, in my opinion, untouchability is a blot on humanity and therefore upon Hinduism. It cannot stand the test of reason. It is in conflict with the fundamental precepts of Hinduism, he insisted. Untouchability was reform, custom masquerading under the name of religion. He set out to reform, but not to reject Hinduism. Although, this is what he said. Untouchability is a sin, a great crime, and if Hinduism does not destroy this serpent while there is time, it will be devoured by it. He firmly believed that ultimately the removal of untouchability depended on the change of heart of millions of caste Hindus. For his part, Ambedkar initially sought equality with the Hindu tradition, hoping to gain a place of religious and social equality with the caste Hindus. For more than a decade, he struggled to overcome the untouchability while staying within the Hindu fold. Finding Hinduism too flawed to be a force for justice and the Hindu orthodoxy too resistant to change, he gave up Hinduism. Reflecting on his more than 2 decades of activism, he said, "When I started on my public career and long thereafter, I considered that for good or for evil, we were part of Hindu society. I thought for a long time that we could rid the Hindu society of its evils and get the depressed classes incorporated into it on terms of equality. Experience has taught me better. I stand today absolutely convinced that for the depressed classes there can be no equality among the Hindus because on equality there rests the foundation of Hinduism." After years of reflection and in the hopes of carrying along with him Dalits as well as the caste Hindus, a few days before he died, Ambedkar turned to Buddhism. Yet, in spite of the different approaches to ridding India of untouchability, each helped to significantly weaken the hold of Hindu orthodoxy and as a consequence strengthen the social and political status of the untouchables. Making the practice of untouchability unlawful by the law of Indian government in 1950 was helpful, but it did not eradicate untouchability. Neither affirmative action nor exclusive Dalit-led and Dalit-organized politics is as effective today as in earlier years. 72 years after Gandhi's assassination and 64 years after Ambedkar's death, Hindu society remains caste-bound and the untouchable are all too frequently brutalized. As we move forward into the new century, political leaders and social activists will do well to revisit Gandhi and Ambedkar and ask what, if anything, can be learned from them. Gandhi's vision, by bringing those on the periphery to the center and lifting the traditionally downtrodden people to a participatory position in society, weakened the power of the high caste Hindus elite. Ambedkar's confrontations approach And the assertion of right has created openings for Dalits to gain a greater sense of self-respect, self-confidence and self-worth than they had before. While Ambedkar relied more heavily on the formal politics and religious separation as a mechanism for change, Gandhi, without ignoring the political dimension, emphasized personal witness and change of heart of a broad mass of people. Yet, caste-based oppression still remains to a certain extent in India. In a sense, both won and both failed. Gandhi failed because the change of the heart did not go far enough or deep enough. Ambedkar failed because conversion to Buddhism or any other religion has rarely led to escape from the stigma of pollution. Both failures testify to the weight and pervasiveness of hierarchical values in Indian society. In conclusion, we need both Ambedkar and Gandhi. Today, India is a more inclusive society than it was. And we have got a government that has brought balance between our tradition and non-traditional approach to economy, politics, justice, and social equality. However, we have not achieved full potential, and to do that, we need to revisit the lessons these two great leaders gave us, namely non-violence, social equality, and moral integrity. Because without moral integrity, there is no social equality. Existence of democracy and fair judicial system after independence is a gift from these two visionary leaders, without which India would have succumbed to autocracy and political chaos like so many other countries that got independence. So we have to remember the great vision of these people and find in this new century how to make progress and have justice, equality, and kindness for people. Thank you so much.
Very graciously agreed to be among us today and to deliver his keynote address. He himself is recovering from a health scare that he had some time ago. I'm going to call Dr. Shinder Purewal to the stage, but before that I'll just give a very brief introduction, not that he needs one. He's a professor of political science at KPU. He's also a very popular radio host and commentator at Sher Punjab Radio, and he's an erstwhile candidate in the electoral politics as well. Now his list of books, publications and articles is very long, so I'm not going to attempt to read any of those out to you, but he is very well versed. He writes prolifically and he speaks equally articulately. He's a political and social and historical commentator, and today he's going to share his thoughts on Indian Constitution, the birth of a new republic. Dr. Shinder Purewal.
Your Majesty, officers and staff of the Consulate, dignitaries and distinguished guests, you must have all, it's not a long speech, it's only a few lines. You must have gone to the Google Baba. If you type in Dr. Ambedkar, you will find numerous articles on Indian Constitution. And if you type in Indian Constitution, you will find Dr. Ambedkar's name numerously mentioned. So it's synonymous. What does a Constitution, being a professor, I have to say this. What does a Constitution achieve? It's basically a blueprint. India had to build a new house. So it was a blueprint for a new nation, a new republic. How do we define a republic? In the good old medieval times, sovereignty was thought that it was residing with God. And in Europe, Mr. Alston, you should know. Pope used to be second in command. I think he still thinks he is. And then he would bless the kings and queens and passing on the sovereignty. The liberal thinkers differed from this, and this is why we have constitution. We differed because they basically stated sovereignty resides with people. It's the people who are sovereign. They give out their sovereignty to our elected officials for a time being, and they can be recalled as well. So what did Indian Constitution, a blueprint, achieve? First of all, it's a union of states. There is a central government, but it also recognizes there are numerous parts of India where they speak different language, where they have different religions, different economic and cultural upbringings. So they have, just like the Canadian Constitution, as Bruce said, they have the union list, state list, and concurrent list in which both the states and the center can legislate. Now, there is also a concept of separation of powers, which Dr. Ambedkar and the drafting committee introduced, that the law making, law enforcement, and law adjudication are different. And in this, there is a checks and balances introduced. Each power has a limited authority. And finally, there is a concept of fundamental rights. In Canadian Constitution, we say repatriation. We never had a constitution. It was sitting in London. So it was only a patriation of the Constitution, not a repatriation of the. Indian Constitution gave fundamental rights in 1950. You could speak of all the rights, but the basic right to speak, right to organize, freedom of conscience is very important. You can believe in any religion you want, or no religion at all. You can believe you are God. In India, a lot of people think they are gods, actually. So along with those fundamental rights, we also have fundamental duties. For example, defending the unity and integrity of India is one of our duties. Defending the communal harmony of Indians is one of our duties. And such great ideas were in the Constitution. Thus, a good blueprint which was given to a republic. No wonder we have survived. We are the only countries who are sending satellite to Mars. Yes, there are great achievements. Yes, there are great challenges as well. Let's not forget that. But we are marching toward progress. Before the British came, we used to produce 30% of world's economy. When they left, we only had 3%. So we started from really a backward position, and we are making good progress. Thank you.
Thank you, all of you. Jai Bhim, Jai Bharat to everyone. I am pleased to share my gratitude and my greeting to you all on this Constitution Day. I feel grateful to share in front of you and express my gratitude to the Constitution of India and to the father of Indian Constitution, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Article 15 is a significant article in the Constitution as it provides equality for all, including women. According to Baba Sahib Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, progress of a community can be measured by the degree of progress by which the women have achieved in their community. Dr. Ambedkar had so much passion toward uplifting all Indian women by providing them with equal rights and opportunities in the Indian Constitution. Dr. Ambedkar realized that the Constitution alone cannot make any guarantees for providing equality to women. He believed that the political will is also necessary. That's why a legal document called Hindu Code Bill was drafted by Indian First Law Minister Dr. B.R. Ambedkar in order to provide equal opportunities to all Indian women. The Hindu Code Bill would have been passed in 1950 and would have passed in 1950, and women would have received all the opportunities sooner, such as right to remarriage, divorce, property equal beneficiary, adoption and maintenances. Dr. Ambedkar had always worked toward uplifting women and marginalized communities. He was a champion of human rights. Nonetheless, I salute Babasaheb Dr. B.R. Ambedkar for making the Constitution that forces a democratic institution to work toward creating equality. It took Babasaheb 2 years, 11 months and 18 days to draft the Indian Constitution. I salute Babasaheb Dr. B.R. Ambedkar for making India sovereign, socialist, democratic and a republic country. According to him, human beings are mortal, so are ideas. An idea needs a propagation as much as a plant needs watering. Otherwise, both will wither and die. So it's our sole duty and responsibility to propagate his ideas about equality, liberty, justice, and education for all, especially women. Let us continue to work toward creating equality for all. Once again, I would like to congratulate everyone here for the happy Constitution Day. Thank you. Jai Bhim, Jai Bharat.
We the people of India. We the people of India. These were the words which were chosen by our constitutional forefathers to commence the Constitution of India. Like omens play a significant role in Shakespearean plots to point out towards the direction of the play, these words, we the people of India, pretty much indicated the direction of national life will take in independent India. We the people of India is an inclusive phrase. It includes the rich and the poor, the men and the women, the so-called high caste and the so-called low caste. We the people of India includes everyone. The words that follow these words are no less significant. The words that follow says, we the people of India have given ourselves this Constitution. Given ourselves has become very relevant these days because as some individuals have tried to portray our freedom and our republic as an arm or a bheek. But these words have given to ourselves, they make it pretty much clear that our freedom and our Constitution is a hard-won battle and a hard-won freedom by us, we the people of India, and no other sovereign power or foreign country has granted us this freedom. Today, as I have been tasked with discussing how the Constitution of India has promoted inclusion and social justice in India. As a lawyer, I can list a lot of articles from Constitution of India that are inclusive in nature, that serve the purpose of social justice. But I would like to cite a very practical example today, a real life story of how the Constitution of India is a living document, how the Constitution of India touches millions of lives every day, and how the Constitution of India serves the purpose of social justice. I would like to discuss with you all the story of a bonded labor in the district of Gurdaspur in Punjab by the name of Hardeep Singh, who was born at a brick kiln, and as a young man who was denied education by the owner of the brick kiln. This young man came into contact with the organization called Volunteers for Social Justice, which is fighting for the right of bonded laborers and which have freed 30,000 bonded laborers from bondage and slavery. Hardeep Singh was also one of those lucky people who were emancipated by this organization called Volunteers for Social Justice. And this young man, after being emancipated, didn't go back to his normal life. He became a volunteer himself. He became an activist himself and joined Volunteers of Social Justice. And till date, this young man who was once denied education, who was once held as a bonded laborer, he himself has emancipated 17 families from bondage and slavery. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how Constitution of India is touching millions of lives. This is how the Constitution of India is a living document, because like the Bonded Laborer Act and the National Human Rights Commission and a lot of institutions like these, they have been created under a constitutional mandate and they are changing lives. So one more incident that is related to this young activist called Hardeep Singh. He once went to District of Faridkot as an activist to meet the ADC there to constitute a team under the Bonded Labour Act to raid and emancipate bonded labour from brick kilns. But the ADC was very reluctant to constitute that team. This young man, who once was a bonded labourer, who once was denied education, he opened up the Bonded Labour Act right in the face of the ADC. He made the ADC read those sections. He opened the standard operating procedure and told him that you are bound under the law to constitute this team and raid that brick kiln. And he was very successful. In the end, the bureaucrats, they had to relent and constitute this team, and Hardeep Singh raided that brick kiln with that raiding team and emancipated one more family. This is how Constitution of India is working every day to emancipate people from slavery. This is how Constitution of India is serving the ends of social justice and changing lives. Today, we should also remember those heroes who have given us this Constitution, foremost of whom is Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, as we fondly call him Baba Saheb. Baba Saheb himself faced a lot of discrimination. He was denied education. He was denied equal rights. He had to fight for every inch of his land. He had to fight for all his rights. And in the end, he came out as a champion for the right of other depressed people. I would like to thank today the Government of India and Prime Minister Narendra Modi for developing 5 most important places related with the life of Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar as Panch Tirath. This is a much needed recognition so that the generations who are about to come know and cherish our heroes. And in the end, I'd like to thank Mr. Manish, Consul General, all the consulate staff, Chetna Association, and Mr. Maninder Gill of Radio India. Thank you very much. Jai Bhim, Jai Bharat.
One more. Thank you. Thank you. Good.
And sir, may I request you to please
Wonderful. Great.
and Niharika.
And one more. Lovely.
Sir, I'll save you the trouble of going back to your seat because there is one more presentation coming your way, and Chetna Association of Canada is presenting a certificate of honor and memento to Consul General Shri Manish Ji. And for that, may I please request Minister Ralston, Mr. Surinder Ranga, and Mr. Rick Tura from the President of the Shri Guru Ravidas Sabha to please come on the floor.
And we have five here. Beautiful. One more. We'll do one more. And lovely. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. We are very thankful to you for coming over here and joining us in this great event. Now I would invite Mr. J. Burdi, General Secretary of Chetna Association of Canada, to offer the welcoming thoughts on this event. J. Burdi.
Thank you very much, Ramesh Ji. Distinguished guests, Your Worship, Mr. Manish Ji, Honorable former Premier of this province of British Columbia, Mr. Ujjwal Dosanjh Ji, Minister Ralston, Dr. Joanne Curry, representing President's Office of Simon Fraser University, and all of our special guests and friends. Now, I must say that I'm truly feeling humbled to see the amount of energy, the thought-provoking ideas that have been put forward, but more importantly, the synergy that is being created. You know, my friend talked about the thoughts of Gandhiji and Dr. Ambedkar and mentioned that we have to work together. We have to celebrate opinions that they had at their time. They may have been different, they may have been controversial, but we live after 75 years of independence of India. If we're still stuck there, we're going to continue to be stuck. We need to move on. We need to celebrate the differences and come and learn about the reconciliation. Talking about reconciliation, I wanted to start off by acknowledging that the land that we are gathered here today belongs to the unceded territories of our elders, particularly the First Nations of the Kwantlen, Samiamu, and Katsi nations. Our heart goes out to the elders of this territory for creating this world for us and reminding us what a wonderful world we need to be living in. I also wanted to say that I really feel privileged to organize this event in partnership with the Consulate General of India. President of Chetna Association, Mr. Ranga, and all of his team, when they heard about this opportunity, they were very pleased, and they wanted to do everything that they could to make this partnership successful. Mr. Manish Ji, our heartfelt appreciation to you as well for creating this opportunity. As we had heard from our previous speakers, we need to work together. No one individual, no one organization can achieve the goals alone. So you, by partnering with Chetna Association, you have demonstrated that we can create a better world and harmony by working together. Friends, I also am feeling disheartened today because one of our elders who has been instrumental and support to us is no longer with us. I'm referring to our elder, Mr. Mohanlal Kareempuri, who passed away from this world on October 28. His family is here with us, and his memories are with us. And I feel grateful that the Chetna Association of Canada had the privilege and opportunity to recognize him in 2019 by bestowing the Dr. Ambedkar Arts and Literature Award to him. I'm also reminded of the sacrifices many other people have made, including Tara Singh here, whose family is running Indo-Canadian Times. In 2013, we established a partnership with Indo-Canadian Times and launched an award under his name. The reason for launching that award was because Tara Singh at the time gave an opportunity for us to express who Guru Ravidas Ji was and what he stood for. And for that, because he did this at a time when even within the community, such a space was not being provided. And I wanted to, he's not with us, but his guidance is here, and we're expecting his family to be also joining us. As Manjeet has noted in her message, Dr. Ambedkar believed that humans are mortal, so are ideas. And this is exactly the reason we are gathered here today. We wanted to celebrate and nurture the ideas of fathers of India such as Dr. Ambedkar, Gandhiji, and we also wanted to celebrate the change makers, because this is the one way of us watering and nurturing the individuals. So friends, with those words, on behalf of Chetna Association of Canada, I congratulate you all on the India's Constitution Day, as well as on the awards night. I wish the very best to every change makers who's contributing every day in their lives, and those of you who are going to be honored and recognized. With those words, please accept my thanks and congratulations. Jai Bhim to everyone. Thank you.
Now, I will invite Jyotika D'Souza and her team to come to the stage and do the performance of one song. Thank you. Jyotika D'Souza.
कच्ची डोरियों 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 से मैनू तू बांध ले पक्की यारियों 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 में होंदे ना फासले है नाराज़गी कागज़ी सारी तेरी मेरे सोने सुन ले मेरी दिल दियां गल्लां करांगे नाल नाल बेके अख नाल अख नू मिला के everybody come on join us करांगे नाल नाल बेके अख नाल अख नू मिला के सताए मैनू क्यों दिखाए मैनू क्यों एवें झूठी मूठी रुस के रुसा के दिल दियां गल्लां करांगे नाल नाल बेके अख नाल अख नू मिला के दिल दियां गल्लां मैनू लखा तो छुपा के रखा अखा ते सजा के तू है मेरी वफा रख रहे आसमां मौसमां दी ना सुने कोई ख्वाब ना पूरे होए दिल दियां गल्लां करां मैं बार वेखे अख नाल अख नूं मिला के गल्लां पता है मैनू क्यों छुपा के देखो तो तेरे नाम से नाम मिला के दिल दियां गल्लां करांगे नाल बैके अख नाल अख नूं मिला के दिल दियां गल्लां Thank you so much. Everybody, I need some energy, please. वे तो लौंग वे मेलाची तेरे पीछे आगवाची वे तो लौंग वे मेलाची तेरे पीछे आगवाची वे तो लौंग वे मेलाची तेरे पीछे आगवाची तेरे इश्क ने मारी कुड़ी कच्च दी कवारी वे मैं चंबे दे पहाड़ा वाली शाम वे मुंडिया संदली संदली नैना विच तेरा नाम वे मुंडिया संदली संदली नैना विच तेरा नाम मुंडिया संदली संदली नैना विच तेरा नाम वे मुंडिया हाँ मेरे सुन्ने सुन्ने पैर तू तो जाना रे नशे बहुता मंगे दी ना थोड़ा लेते झांझरा दा जोड़ा हाँ मेरे सुन्ने सुन्ने पैर तू तो जाना रे नशे बहुता मंगे दी ना थोड़ा लेते झांझरा दा जोड़ा जेड़ा विकदा बाजारा विच आम वे मुंडिया संदली संदली नैना विच तेरा नाम वे मुंडिया संदली संदली नैना विच तेरा नाम वे मुंडिया संदली संदली रूठे बाला दे वे छल्ले तेरे बिना असीं कल्ले पाले बावा विच बावा तू तां बन जाने छावा हाय रूठे बाला दे वे छल्ले तेरे बिना असीं I'm a chin chin choo, I'm a chin chin choo. Raat chandni mein tu, hello mister, how do you do? Papa, मेरे ख्वाबों में जो आए, आके मुझे छेड़ जाए। मेरे ख्वाबों में जो आए, आके मुझे छेड़ जाए। किसी कहो कभी सामने तो आए, मेरे ख्वाबों में जो आए। मेरे ख्वाबों में जो आए, आके मुझे छेड़ जाए। La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, रात बाकी, बात बाकी, होना है जो हो जाने दो।
And her team for wonderful performance. Now it's the time for the presentation of awards. So the first category of the Dr. Ambedkar Awards is Dr. Ambedkar Arts and Literature Award. And the criteria for winning this award is an individual who has inspired, influenced, and made significant changes in the mindsets of individuals through art and literature. Now, I would invite Dr. Joanne Curry to come to the stage and introduce the recipient of Dr. Ambedkar Arts and Literature Award, Dr. Joanne Curry.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to join you tonight for both the celebration of Constitution Day and the Dr. Ambedkar Chetna Awards. And thank you to the Dancing Dolls. There's not a lot of joy the last month, and to see the joy in their faces while they were dancing just brought me such great joy, so thank you. And it's so wonderful to see so many friends in the audience, and the India Consul General, Mr. Manish, the Takors, always wonderful to see you and your support of the libraries in SFU. And great to see Bruce Ralston and Dave Hare, who are the two biggest champions of the SFU Surrey campus expansion. So great to see them both in the same room. Bruce said that maybe at the end of the night he'll join the Dancing Dolls for a dance, so stay tuned. So the relationship with Chetna and with the local Indian community is so much at SFU's heart of its community engagement strategy. And it is my pleasure to introduce the winner of this prestigious award, and it's Professor Deanna Rader. Deanna is a Cree Métis scholar and an associate professor in the departments of Indigenous Studies and English at Simon Fraser University. She also has an administrative role as chair of Indigenous Studies, and she has guided so much important work at SFU in removing decolonizing art, as well as supporting really important Indigenous art initiatives. Her research is on neglected Indigenous literary archives, and through this project, she's uncovered writings that had been forgotten. and bringing some of this body of work to publications. Just one example is the First Nation writer Vera Manuel published Honoring the Strength of Indian Women, and that was published in 2019. Deanna has a real vision of supporting upcoming Indigenous writers, and she's founded several organizations that support Indigenous literatures. In 2013, she joined with colleagues and established the Indigenous Literary Studies Association. In 2020, she worked with a group of Indigenous creatives to establish the Indigenous Editors Association. And she also played a really critical role with another SFU professor, Sophie McCall, and they actually crowdfunded $100,000 in prize money to create awards for emerging Indigenous voices, again, uncovering and discovering new Indigenous artists and writers. In 2018, in recognition of her body of work and impact, Deanna was inducted into the College of New Scholars, Artists and Scientists in the Royal Society of Canada, and this is one of the highest honors in the Academy. Deanna's impact locally in British Columbia and Canada is tremendous, and I thank you for honoring her with this award. As mentioned, she's uncovered Indigenous stories that would have been lost to us and is creating a springboard for the next generation of Indigenous authors. I call Dr. Deanna Rader to the stage to accept the award.
Thank you very much. My name is Deanna Rader, and while I have family all over the prairies, my Cree Métis family come from northern Saskatchewan, around La Ronge, if those of you have ever lived there. And even though I've lived in these territories for almost 30 years, I acknowledge that I'm here as a guest on the unceded and beautiful traditional territories of the Semiahmoo, Katzie, and Kwantlen First Nations. And I'm really, really honored to be the recipient of this award in Dr. Ambedkar's name. Often when I tell people that I'm a literature professor at Simon Fraser University, they assume that I'm an expert in oral storytelling traditions of Indigenous peoples, because they don't know that there is a huge body of work, a lot of it just languishing in the archives, because those authors, like Cree writer Edward Aheniku in 1918 tried to get his novel published and never did. Or like Vera Manuel, for example, or like certainly James Settee in the 1800s, and like even the work of Inuit writer Alatuk Ipali. So, and also the Métis activist James Brady. So this whole body of work is something that where I, with other colleagues, are trying to introduce into the curriculum so that we can change the idea of what it means to be an Indigenous intellectual, to add to what we understand as traditions that are contained in stories, in culture, in ceremony, and also in writing, and that we can bring those to our students to read. But I have to say, one of the reasons why I'm so grateful to have the job I have is that when that money was crowdfunded in 2017, it was because there was a national controversy about whether or not Indigenous writers' voices ought to be privileged. And so this crowdfunding was actually run by a couple of volunteers across Canada who said, hey, let's raise some money up for young writers, people who haven't had much published yet, and let's encourage these emerging Indigenous voices. And they thought, let's raise $10,000. And instead, like almost instantaneously, the way that crowdfunding works, the $115,000 was raised. And so I've been working with my colleagues like Sophie McCall and a few others to give out prize money. And we're just about to announce on December 1st the 5th year. So far, we've given out $110,000, and we're still, we have a $35,000 to give this coming year. So we're just, I'm so grateful. I am so grateful to be able to have this wonderful job to work with young minds, to help introduce new things to read. And when I think about the relationship that the Chetna Association has had with the SFU Library, and of course others here as well, like the core family, I'm so inspired by the kind of change that he made in the world and his love of books. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Diana Herrera. So now I will invite our sponsors, Vijender Pati of Fast Track Appliances and Bill Basra of Mela Entertainers. I will also invite Mr. Ujjwal Dosanjh and Chetna General Secretary Jai Bardi, Dr. Joanne Curry to come to the stage and present the award to Dr. Diana Herrera. I would like to invite Santosh Bhatti from Fast Track Appliances to come to the stage, and we want to give the award to the sponsor. So, Santosh Bhatti.
Can you all move, please? In the light. Yeah. Thank you. Very good. One. All right, and hold it. Here we go. One more, look right here. Let's have your smiles. Come on, guys, look happy. One more. Lovely.
Second award, Dr. Ambedkar Social Justice Award. And the winning criteria is an activist who has made significant contributions to the advancement of human and social justice rights. And for that, I would like to invite Miracle to say a few words about the recipient. So Miracle, please come to the stage and say a few words about the recipient. Thank you so much.
Many of you guys would know we are speaking about looking for the racialized women's proportionate representation in federal government and provincial government as well as municipal government. That is where we are today, that we're looking for the proportionate representation of racialized women. Today, when I look around, I also see there is a good number of women attending this event. That hasn't always the case. If we just kind of go back, it took, I think it was 1916 in Manitoba, it took more than 14,000 Canadian women to get signatures and stand outside the Manitoba legislature to ask for the right to vote. Over 40,000 women protested and filed a signed petition to ask for the right to vote. India wasn't too far behind either. In 1919, Madras was the first province where Indian women fought and won the right to vote. Realize this, that while we're talking about equality here, that we really had to fight to even recognized as person. 1929, Canada gave the right to be called legally, to be considered as person, where you could have fully legal rights to basically own a business, have a house, in 1929 in Canada. And when we're talking about India, 1950, when we adopted this constitution, Dr. Ambedkar gave the equal rights to women right that day. 1960, Aboriginal women were the last women in Canada to get the right to vote. So just realize, once we understand the history and hundreds of years of struggle that women have done to be where we are today, where I'm speaking in front of you, and I have the privilege to be announcing the next winner. Now, just to say a few important aspects about the winner of this award. She came into late 60s and with a teacher's degree, and she started volunteering at the school as well as at the Gurdwara Sahib. Uthe unna ne bahut gallan suniyan. I'm going to go back and forth between English and Punjabi because that's how we kind of, belong. And that's how we, especially when we're speaking from the heart, and I think it just, we translate and we transcend to the different languages that we feel passion from. So unna ne Gurdwara Sahib de vich ਇਹ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ board ਨੇ, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ executive ਨੇ, or anywhere around her, when she saw men were leading every organization, let it be political, social, or any organization. Women were given the chief of kitchen. Kitchen ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਮੇਵਾਰੀ ਦੇਣੀ ਹੈ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਾ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਉਹ ਔਰਤ ਨੂੰ ਦੇ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਸੀ. But when the decision making table situations came, women were missing. And when men take the privilege to represent women, to speak for women, that will never ever be the same when women will speak for her own rights. And this is something triggered, motivated, inspired the next winner. She met two other wonderful, progressive women working in the area at that time. Very quickly, in 1972, they realized that they need to have an association that they can call its Indian Women's Organization. They called it India Mahila Association. That was the first Indo-Canadian South Asian Women's Organization in Vancouver. And the credit goes to important 5 women. Few of them are still here today with us. So that's the first organization, and at that time, domestic violence was something that was forcing women to commit suicide, not by themselves, but also taking and jumping off the bridge with their own kids. Imagine that. It is just not something that you cannot take this lightly. They were dealing with the women who were pushed out in -10, -20 outside of the house because of the domestic violence that they were feeling. Many of the women were feeling domestic violence, impacts of the domestic violence, and there was no organization where the women could reach out to for help. Today we're very lucky. I wouldn't say lucky. We are at a place where we are because of the hard work that was done by women who have come before us. And by the 1980s and 1990, the medical system had done the breakthrough that now the doctors could identify the gender of the fetus in a mother's womb. 1980s to 1990. That was the process. And then by the early 1990s, there were doctors and there was clinics in America, right here across the border, as well as in Buffalo. They were telling that you could just come and you could have a family of your choice. That was the slogan. You could have a family of a choice. That meant if you had a girl child, you could get an abortion. And thousands of Canadians at the time, they went across the border and they aborted the girl child. And once this group of people, when they found out about this, they not only challenged the mainstream newspapers on which this particular doctor was giving full page ad. They're saying, come, you could find out the gender of your fetus, and in fine prints that we could arrange for the abortion as needed. So this was going on in 90s in Vancouver, and when they found out, they not only wrote to them and they protested against these newspapers, they also motivated and encouraged all the politicians at the time, just before the election, that not to give ads to those particular newspapers who were giving this much of a space for this kind of crime. Furthermore, the doctor who was holding this clinic, they protested against that gentleman, and they ensured that doctor was not able to have the clinic in Vancouver. All that work was done by the Indian Mahila Association, and especially the women that we are announcing as the winner of the Dr. Ambedkar Chetna Social Justice Award for her contributions to women empowerment, reducing domestic violence, and educating communities against female feticide. And the winner is Mrs. Raminder Dosanjh. Please put your hands together for this brave woman.
Thank you so much, Miragal. And I would like to invite to present this award A&T Insurance Broker Limited Delta, the best, one of the best insurance brokerage, honors Jess Thiera. And also I would like to invite respected Harpajan Bashalji and Raj Suraji. And I would also like to invite our honorable guest, Mr. Bruce Ralston, and Chetna representative Surjit Bains and Jay Bains, and also the recipient. Thank you.
Okay, so look at him first, then I'll All right, now look at me and give me a big smile, guys. Look happy. Wonderful. One more. Let's have your smiles. Look right here. Beautiful. One more. One more. One more, please. Thank you. And one more. Thank you. Okay, just a minute. Stay there for a minute. Oh, hold it.
Chetna Association of Canada, our Consul General of India, our keynote speaker, Mr. Arvind Thakur, and his beautiful wife, Jyoti, and all of you invited guests here who've made this evening a success. You've taken your important time to come and be here. Thank you. I am honored, very honored to receive this Dr. Ambedkar Justice Award here today. It means a lot to me, and I would like to acknowledge that while I've devoted most of my life to further women's rights at the federal level, provincial level, and the local level, but most of my work within the community at the local level, particularly in the Lower Mainland and British Columbia, has been under the umbrella of India Mahila Association, which was founded in 1973, and I was one of the co-founders at that time. And as Meera mentioned to you, it actually was the first South Asian women's organization across Canada, not just in Vancouver. So we're very proud of that. At that particular time, when I came to Canada in 1970, October of 1970, there were hardly any immigrant serving organizations like there are now. And there was a lot of immigration that had happened, but the services were not quite ready. They did not have workers from those communities. They did not understand the needs of the communities. And women in particular were very isolated in their homes. And when I came out here, I started volunteering in the schools and came to understand some of the issues that women faced in their homes. So as she mentioned, that some of us got together. One of my husband's aunts was here, who had been here since 1955. So we would talk at home. I met 2-3 other women, and we felt that there was a need to form the organization. This organization started partnering with some of the mainstream organizations like the shelters for women, which had just recently opened up at that time. And we sat together and figured out how we could approach the issue so that the centers would become more accessible to the women in the community. And we started talking to the workers in the shelters and talked about the needs of the women so that the women could feel more comfortable when they ended up in the shelters. And this work involved a lot of women who devoted numerous hours and worked tirelessly to improve the lives of women and challenge the inequities in society. I could not have undertaken this work without their support, partnership, and inspiration. We have been working tirelessly for so many years, and we see a lot of change, but we still have a long, long way to go. And I have with me today, I'm not going to take up too much of your time, but I have with me today women from my organization who are at the back over there. I would like all of you to stand. One of them, Harjeet Dillon, who happens to be my husband's Masiji, is also a founding member of the organization, and she is here from day one. There are other members there. Some of them have been there for 40 years, 48 years, and I think the latest one is probably about 4 or 5 years, Samarjeet. And so they're all here, and without there's lots of other women who couldn't come because we had a table, and we thought they should come with me because it's all of their hard work and the work of all the other women who could not be here. We've already lost 2 of our founding members who passed away a few years ago, and we've lost a few other active members. But women that come to work with the organization come because they're devoted to the issue. We have operated for 48 years without any operational funding from any source of government. And we will be celebrating our 50th anniversary in 2 years from now. So I accept this award that I've been given today on behalf of all of these women and all of the women that we have been working with in the community, through whose experience I have become much stronger. I have gained strength talking to those women. While I am helping them, at the same time, I have helped myself get stronger. And I would urge everybody else in this room to get involved, do some volunteer work, help each other out. And I'm going to say something that to all the men here, that, you know, when you talk about equality, it starts at home. We have to implement that in our own homes. We have to show our children how we live together equally, and then from there we move on, and we make, if we're strong in the family, we make our community strong, and we make our society strong. And in closing, as we all know, that we are in the midst of celebrating the Constitution Day of India, International Day of Elimination of Violence Against Women, and International Human Rights Day, which will be on December 10th. Human rights are important, but true human rights mean not only freedom from inequality, oppression, injustice, and discrimination based on gender, caste, sexual orientation, economic status, race, and many other factors. It also means freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, or freedom just to be without fear of arrest without cause, or detention without trial. That is happening in many countries across the globe, even today. So for any meaningful change to happen, we must strive for a world where you and I are equal to everyone else, where justice springs forth in all its majesty in equal measure for all. That is very important. So मैं ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਹੀ ਕਹੂੰਗੀ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪਲੀਜ਼ ਆਪਣੇ ਘਰਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਬਰਾਬਰਤਾ ਆ ਘਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕਰੋ। ਆਦਮੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਕਹੂੰਗੀ ਵੀ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਪਾਰਟਨਰ ਨੂੰ ਚੰਗੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਟ੍ਰੀਟ ਕਰੋਗੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਬਰਾਬਰ ਲਿਆਓਗੇ ਤਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਉਨੀ ਤਕੜੀ ਬਣੂਗੀ, ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਉਨੇ ਤਗੜੇ ਬਣਨਗੇ, ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਉਨੀ ਤਗੜੀ ਬਣੂਗੀ। ਸੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ last person that I haven't given credit to, which is very important, I have to go home today, is my husband. And I have to acknowledge, when I met him in 1971, he came from a very political background, and I came from a totally apolitical background. Politics was never discussed in my house. My father was in the army and he never took any sides. So when I met him and I'd complain about something, he was my inspiration at the beginning. He said, if you want to do something, if you see some unfairness, don't sit home and complain. Get out there and do something about it. And he helped me do that. He would look after the little kids when they're babies. He would do their diapers. He didn't know how to cook, but he helped out and he encouraged me to go out and get involved. So thank you.
Here, Journalism Award. And this award was launched in the memory of Tar Singh Here, founder and publisher of Indo-Canadian newspaper. And this award was instituted in his name, for providing space and forum to the marginalized communities. Now I will invite Ratanpal ji from Chetna Association to come to the podium and introduce the recipient. Ratanpal.
I am conveying this message on behalf of Prem Chumbar, Editor-in-Chief, Ambedkar Times and Desh Duaba, California, USA. Many congratulations on holding the award-giving ceremony by the Chetna Association of Canada under the stewardship of Mr. J. Virdi in collaboration with the Consulate General of India, Vancouver. It could have been a matter of great pleasure and honor for me to be part of the event, but for some unavoidable circumstances, I couldn't attend this event. My sincere congratulations to all esteemed participants and organizers on the celebration of Indian Constitution Day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ratanji. The recipient of this award, Mr. Prem Chumbar, who founded the newspaper in Sacramento called Dr. Ambedkar Times about 10 years ago. And I give him the credit for not only launching the paper, but sustaining it. Because I know how hard it is when you start newspapers or mediums that are dedicated to social justice and community work. Our kudos to him. Regretfully, he was not able to come with us, so he has sent his message, and we appreciate Mr. Ratanpal reading it. We will be presenting the award, and we will be asking Ratanpalji to accept the award on his behalf. But before we do that, I'd like to once again mention a couple of things. As I had said previously, I don't know if Brother Dave, Cal, Ojla, and the team of the Indo-Canadian Times were here at the time, but they are here now. Our heartfelt gratitude to the Indo-Canadian Times for partnering with us and continuing to partner with us since 2013. So we want to acknowledge that. I also wanted to acknowledge a couple of my best friends, who started this TV show called Zindagi, and has given opportunities to many individuals who are doing really well in the mainstream media. The Zindagi was started, and some of you may know Neera Arora, who's on the morning program in a mainstream radio, and there are a number of Rina here, who's working, for another mainstream station. So we want to acknowledge them for being here, Atish and Mandy Ram. The other reason we wanted to acknowledge is that Atish was also recipient of the Tara Singh Here Journalism Award. So since he received the award, he's been supporting us, he's been coming to these events, and we are going through this COVID. Brother, I'm really glad that you're here. Many of you may not know, when COVID first started, Atish was the victim of it. He was in hospital, he was in ICU for more than 3 weeks. And hearing the stories of him being in the hospital, it sent really major shockwave. So today to see you with us, smiling, walking with us, sitting with us, I feel really thankful to the mighty Lord, if there's a mighty Lord, or Lordess, for that matter, who has given you that energy back. So I wanted to especially welcome you for being with us. And also, Mandy, I shouldn't say I know, but I can appreciate what you and your family was going through, And you also coming today, sitting right next to Atish, it's that solidarity. And it's the solidarity that you have, it symbolizes. And if we can have that solidarity at the community level, at the national level, at the global level, we will have the peace that our brothers talked about previously. So without further ado, now I'm going to ask Harmeshji to invite two of our sponsors, because as you know, without sponsors, it's harder to run programs. And so I'll turn it over to Harmeshji to bring our sponsors, and then we'll ask Ratan to receive the award on behalf of Mr. Premchandra.
I would like to invite Dave here from Indo-Canadian newspaper. Also the sponsor, Rick Tura of Planet Paving Limited, and Ratanpal to come to the stage and receive the award on behalf of Mr. Premchandra. I will also request Atish to come to the stage and join us in presenting the award.
One more, let's say yes.
I would like to ask Mr. Bhajantrapati to come to the stage and join us in presenting the award to the Planet Paving Limited.
Thank you, Harmeshji. Bhajantrapati, we are really grateful for your support. You're not only representing your company, Fast Track Appliances, but you're also with Shri 108 Ikswat Sant Sarvandas Charitable Trust. So you're presenting this on behalf of the Sarvandas Charitable Trust. Thank you.
Now I would like to invite Uncle Kushiramji to come to the podium and introduce the recipient.
What a wonderful evening. Educative, full of information and full of entertainment. congratulations to all who have organized this. And I have to thank particularly Consul General of India here for arranging the Constitution of India Day celebration. The speakers deserve to be congratulated for giving very good piece of information. Thank you very much. Now, I have been given this honor to introduce the winner of this award, Mr. Dilip Singh. It's a great pleasure that this award is being given to a very eminent person amongst us. And this celebration is doubly blessed by the presence of our Consul General here. I thank him very much for this. Mr. Dilip Singh deserves this award amply. If we see from where he originated and what heights he attained in his life, that's really wonderful. I am not eulogising him for the first time. I wrote even a letter to the editor of the Link magazine in 2019 after reading a few of his articles. And I would like to read extracts from that letter I wrote. I have been a regular reader of the Weekly Link for over 30 years. For some time past, I have found a lot of improvement in the news and views expressed in your esteemed paper. Some recent contributors are really enlightened persons. Of special interest have been the columns by Mr. Dilip Singh on different themes. They are very informative and inspiring and couched in picturesque and idiomatic language. He is capable of connecting current burning issues with different age-old spiritual messages. So quotes and proverbs are inescapably there in plenty. I feel that peace, harmony, and progress should be our goal in life, and his articles amply espouse all those issues. His columns, to name a few: human rights, terrorism, current affairs, various religions. How beautifully he wrote on terrorism. Devil doesn't like the holy water. While writing on human rights, he said we are all equal. Then he spoke about Nanak's message of non-nepotism, Kabir on hypocrisy and superstitions, Ravidas' protest against discrimination, Ambedkar's equality, liberty and fraternity, and even such non-serious issues as Valentine's Day. There is a message in each of these articles, mostly bitter truth expressed in sweet language, needing reading between the lines. This is the praise I offered to Mr. Dilip Singh back in 2019. Now, Now, I knew him from 2017 when he inaugurated the Dr. Ambedkar Library in the Ravidas Community Center. But I appreciate all his articles in the newspaper, and our friendship grew. Now, I would like to give some idea about his life. He was born in a poor family of Haryana, and although he was a brilliant student at school, he had to discontinue his studies just after matriculation because he wanted to do some job. He joined the Delhi Development Authority as a clerk, and he continued to learn stenography. Look at that. That he thought was the best opportunity for him to improve. In 1969, he passed the UPSC examination for stenographers and got a good rank and was taken into the Ministry of External Affairs. Now, thereafter, it was a rapid rise. Through various examinations, he improved himself, and in 1984, he even became undersecretary in that department. Now, this itself is a big achievement, but he did not stop there. And to cut it short, I want to tell you that he retired as Joint Secretary to the Government of India in the Ministry of External Affairs and had worked even as ambassador in some places. Now, this is a very big achievement, and he even privately passed his BA examination and did even postgraduate diploma in human rights. Now, during his career in the Ministry of External Affairs, he served in various missions abroad, such remote places as Panama and remote areas like Finland, difficult places like Afghanistan and North Korea, and also good places like London and Vancouver. He retired in 2009. It was all not smooth sailing for him. And I want to tell you one incident in his posting in Southeast Asia in an embassy, where two officers, his colleagues, passed cautious remarks in his presence. That was very insulting to him. He took up the matter with the ambassador, and he told him frankly, either they will go or I will go back to Delhi and resign from this job. I can't bear these insults. That ambassador was so much convinced by his arguments that he sent those two officers to jail in spite of diplomatic immunity. And thereafter, he sent them back. Just as they came out of the jail, they were sent back to Delhi. This was the way he could fight for his rights, for his human rights. Something about his post-retirement. After retiring, he was there in Delhi for some time. He passed the diploma examination for human rights from the Institute of Human Rights in Delhi. And now he is settled in Vancouver with his wife. He has his own house. And he raised a very nice family. All his children are well educated and well placed. And the beautiful thing about that family that I find is that all of them are married, intercaste and interreligious. What could be greater achievement than this? About the articles in the newspaper, that link, you must be all aware. He even plays golf. And, you know, he is even a poet. He can write poetry in English as well as Hindi. And next year, he is going to publish 2 books. One, his essays that he publishes in a link paper, and his book on poetry. And I am trying to persuade him to write his autobiography. I am grateful to the Chetna Association for giving him this award, and I thank the Consul General of India especially for organizing that our Constitution Day. I know what contribution was made by Baba Sahib, Dr. Ambedkar, in writing this Constitution almost single-handed. If you read the proceedings of the Constituent Assembly, you will see that single-handed he handled all the amendments proposed and all that. So he was really a great man, and along with the Constitution of India Day, the Dr. Ambedkar will always be remembered. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Wow, what a summary and accomplishment, Ambassador Zile Singh ji. It's also great to have Mr. Kushiramji, one of the very few centenarians. Mr. Kushiramji turned 100 years ago in August, so let's give him a round of applause. Before we call upon Ambassador Zile Singh ji to come and receive the award or say a few words, I just wanted to acknowledge, I was reading one poem a few years ago. The poem was about rising from zero to hero. What we heard from Mr. Kushiramji, Mr. Ambassador Zile Singh ji, you symbolize that. You rose from, I don't want to say zero, because that's not where we all start from, because there's a lot of effort that goes into it. But you started from a position of clerical, and then you reached all the way to the position of ambassador. You're inspiring. You're an inspiration to many of us, many of the youngsters who are looking for hope. So friends, with those introductory words, I would like to call upon Ambassador Zile Singh ji to come on the stage and say a few words. While we're waiting for Ambassador Zile Singh ji, I'd like to also acknowledge some of our friends from the media who are here. Mr. Harpreet Singh from Red FM, he's always with us. He also interviewed Consul General Manish ji this morning, so thank you. Dr. Shinde Purewal, you're a scholar, you're from KBU, but you're also a radio host. So thank you for having a conversation on the Constitution this morning and creating awareness, creating Chetna. Thank you. Our friend, Mr. Maninder Gill from Radio India, he has not only been a broadcaster, but he's also been a producer of entertainment. And I met him in about 2001, and then particularly in 2003 when we were having International Dalit Conference. And I learned about you, Mr. Gill, about how you have also helped many of the inspiring artists. You brought them to Canada. You gave them the voice through your Radio India program. So I want to acknowledge and say thank you for being with us. Thank you. Now, friends, it's my honor and privilege to introduce Ambassador Zile Singh ji and request him to say a few words.
Honorable Consul General, officers from the Consulate, members of Chetna associations, and all the distinguished guests here today. So I'm happy as well as honored to receive this Lifetime Achievement Award. I'm happy. There are several reasons. I can see the faces with whom I have interacted. I know them, some of them by name, I know them some by face. And of course this is lifetime achievement, so it has given me some, of course, privilege as well as some responsibility. So how to perform that responsibility it's on my shoulder. So how I can be more useful to the community, to the society, and to the human beings. The reasons for me to be happy here. One, first of all, today we are celebrating November 26 as the Constitution Day of India. Speakers before me have spoken elaborately on the Constitution. With your permission, I will say only 2 words. When we got the independence, Jawaharlal Nehru said, we have been provided with a car. We have been provided with a car with all brakes but no engine. So what was that engine? Constitution was that engine which will bring that car on the road. So this is the importance of the Constitution. And many of us know, and speakers have said that it is a living document. So it's going on. And about Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar said that it is really one of the best constitution. When we talk about Dr. Ambedkar, it is not only that we speak about him from our tongue, we have to live him. If we have to respect Dr. Ambedkar, we have to live him. So this is for me to be happy, the Constitution Day, and meeting you all the people, and you all know that this year we are celebrating 75th anniversary of our independence. That is called Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. So these are the things which make me happy. And I am more happy than a person who has crossed his 100 years of life, successful life. He spoke about me. That opportunity, I don't think that somebody will get it. And the appreciation he has showered upon me, so it will go in my dreams forever. So I am very thankful to respected Kusiramji that he spoke so many things about him. When he came to know that I will be awarded, he said that I will attend, but there will be one condition. I should be given a chance to speak. There was another, my colleague, who was supposed to speak about me. So I had to request him, please stay back. So he's also here, I appreciate him also. So this is what the function. When we say how to live Dr. Ambedkar, he said, don't do hero worship. What is going on nowadays, we can see everywhere, not here, everywhere. Don't do hero worship. He said, educate, unite and agitate. How we live that? I have tried my best from my very beginning, as we were told, from matriculation to that and ended up to ambassador. I should not say that it is quite a fantastic journey. Thanks to my seniors in the ministry, because of them. And he narrated how one ambassador, on the case of discrimination on the caste basis, sent to India-based official in a foreign country despite of diplomatic immunity. So I had to fight for that, genuinely. And that case went up to, at that time, Mrs. Indira Gandhi and our foreign minister, Honorable Sardar Saran Singh ji. It was not a small thing. It is a history known to very few of my colleagues in the Indian Foreign Service. So this is what and how to live Dr. Ambedkar on equality. Embrace who is below you. Embrace who is below you. In scheduled caste, there are so many castes. We should not aspire that the higher below. Embrace you first see who are below you, you embrace him. That is Dr. Ambedkar's equality. What is liberty? Shun all these superstitions, illogical things, unnecessary precepts given by the scriptures, most of them. Shun those, that will be the liberty. What is fraternity? Go away from religion, don't be slave of any religion. You cannot create a fraternity having attached to any religion. You have to go beyond that. Otherwise, it will be in your way. So this is Dr. Ambedkar's living example, and this is his message today. Because I have been given that award, I'm so glad. How you can be equal, how you can be liberated, how you can be create a fraternity. So thank you very much, and I am really very grateful. And I hope that I will be able to do something. Thanks.
Friends, let's give another round of applause to Ambassador Ajay. Now to recognize and present our recognition to Ambassador on the stage, and I would also like to request some of our friends to join Mr. Manishji in presenting this award. First, I'd like to request our sponsor for this award is Mr. Dharampal Kajal of Westridge Engineering and Consulting. I'd like to request him to join us. Chetna President, Mr. Surendraranga. Aranjit Lageri, Dr. Harjinder Jassal, Principal Maluk Chand Kaler, Ram Pratap Kaler, and Sita Ramji. So while we're presenting, I would like to request our friend Mr. Raj to come on the stage and then ask him to share a couple of lines in Punjabi. Raj ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਇੱਕ ਦੋ ਲਾਈਨਾਂ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਦੇ ਗੀਤਾਂ ਵੀ ਸੁਣਾਣਗੇ।
Okay. Let's have your smiles, guys. You are too serious. Celebration है, आपको smile करना चाहिए. Thank you.
Now I would like to request Kalir Sahab Anda ji ਨੂੰ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਪਾਂਸਰ ਹੈ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਸਨਮਾਨ ਕਰਨ। ਰਾਜਟੋੜਾ ਜੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆ ਜਾਓ ਇੱਕ।
Can everybody go ahead this way? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, look here. One more. Thank you. Okay, one more here. And again, same thing, smiling faces. All right, one more. Lovely. Thank you.
सारी जिन्नी पार्टी आई है सारे एमपी जिन्ने भी आए हैं सारे का कला कला नाम लैन लगे तो आप खुशी राम मगर अद्धा घंटा ला देंगे तो मैं सारे का धन्यवाद एक बार करता चेतना सोसाइटी वालों तो सारे गुरुद्वारे वालों ऐसा भी असी इकट्ठे होकर जो प्रोग्राम रखते हैं सारे का साझा होंगे यही असी मंगते भी सारे खुशियां के नाल जान खुशियां के नाल होण ये जो कोरोना चल रहा ये बारे भी असी कहते सारे बचा के रखो अपना अपना ख्याल रखो यही असी अरदास करते हैं सच्चे पातशाह बारे खुशियां के नाल जाओ। धन्यवाद जी सारे थैंक यू।
हेलो 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 पहला तो चेतना सोसाइटी वाले बहुत बहुत बधाइयां इन्ना वधिया प्रोग्राम अरेंज किया सारे जय बिरदी तो उन्होंने सारा जोड़े अपने स्टाफ अपने मैंबर्स है। सो मैं थोड़े मोरे दो लाइनें सुनाऊंगा क्योंकि टाइम बहुत थोड़ा है। सजना वे सजना तेरे शहर वाली सानू ਕਿੰਨੀ ਸੋਹਣੀ ਲੱਗਦੀ ਦੁਪਹਿਰ, ਕਿੰਨੀ ਚੰਗੀ ਲੱਗਦੀ ਦੁਪਹਿਰ, ਫਿਰ ਵੀ ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਾਹਨੂੰ ਮੋਜ ਆਈ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਏ, ਭਾਵੇਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਸੜ ਗਏ ਨੇ ਪੈਰ, ਭਾਵੇਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਬੁੱਝ ਗਏ ਨੇ ਪੈਰ, ਹੋ ਸਜਣਾ ਵੇ ਸਜਣਾ ਵੇ ਸਜਣਾ, ਤੇਰੇ ਸ਼ਹਿਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਭ ਆਪਣੇ ਹੀ ਵਸਦੇ ਨੇ, ਸਾਡੇ ਪਿੰਡ ਵਸਦੇ ਨੇ ਗਏ, ਸਾਡੇ ਪਿੰਡ ਵਸਦੇ ਨੇ ਗਏ, ਜਿੰਨੇ ਵੀ ਮਿਲੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਮਿਲੇ ਦੁੱਖ ਦੇਣ ਵਾਲੇ, ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਨਾ ਪੁੱਛੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਖੈਰ, ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਨਾ ਪੁੱਛੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਖੈਰ, ਹੋ ਸਜਣਾ ਵੇ ਸਜਣਾ ਵੇ ਸਜਣਾ, ਤੇਰੇ ਸ਼ਹਿਰ ਕਾਦੀ ਆਈ ਮਿੱਤਰਾ ਵੇ ਮੇਰਿਆ, ਭੁੱਲੇ ਸਭ ਸ਼ਿਕਵੇ ਤੇ ਵੈਰ, ਭੁੱਲੇ ਸਭ ਸ਼ਿਕਵੇ ਤੇ ਵੈਰ, ਚਿੱਤ ਕਰੇ ਕੱਕੇ ਕੱਕੇ ਰੇਤਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਚੁੰਮ ਲਵਾਂ, ਲੱਭ ਕਿਤੇ ਸਜਣਾ ਦੀ ਭੈਣ, ਲੱਭ ਕਿਤੇ ਸਜਣਾ ਦੀ ਭੈਣ, ਹੋ ਸਜਣਾ ਵੇ ਸਜਣਾ ਵੇ ਸਜਣਾ। ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ।